Welcome back to the Find Your Calling channel. This is episode number 14. We've just finished discussing how to go about planning how you will temporarily disconnect from many of the unnecessary commitments in your life in order to get the mental and physical space you need to better discern your calling. You've developed a plan, you've worked the plan, and now what do you do next? That's the question we'll begin to answer in today's episode. So, after all of this planning and effort, what do you do next? We've already discussed the goal of meditating frequently on the good news about Jesus Christ as you move through this process, but what else should you be doing during the disconnection phase? For many of us, we have a mindset that busyness produces results. So we jam our lives full of activities that are designed to produce a certain result, a more fit body, a better job, a happier kid, whatever. In previous episodes, we've discussed the process of reducing many of these commitments, and the logical question to ask is, what do we replace these commitments with? Besides meditating on the gospel, the answer is, at least initially, nothing. That's right, you heard that correctly. I want you to do a whole lot of nothing. Now, I'm not suggesting you just stare at the walls or binge watch that television series you've been planning on. Instead, I'm suggesting you only participate in activities that give you plenty of time to think and provide an opportunity to sit with your own thoughts. Take walks in the woods, ride your bike, visit the library, put a puzzle together, build a model ship, plant some flowers in the yard, maybe paint that room you've been putting off painting. Anything that doesn't involve a long-term commitment and which allows your brain to think at the same time. Why am I suggesting this? I'm suggesting this because many of us are getting our feel-goods, our sense of value and worth from the things we're doing. But our true value and worth don't come from doing anything. A person's true value and worth come from being a child of God. And until we can stop mainlining the drug of temporal achievement long enough to detoxify from the addiction of human approval or material possessions, we cannot internalize and experience the truth that simply being a child of God is enough. By taking the time to do nothing, you're giving yourself the gift of detoxification from many of the external validators that you've previously used to help prop up your identity and feelings of self-worth. You will likely begin to feel uncomfortable. That's normal. You may feel a need to do something to erase these uncomfortable feelings. It's important that you resist this urge. Instead, use your journaling method of choice and begin to record your thoughts and feelings. Dig down deep. Whenever emotions surface during this time, start your journaling process by asking yourself two questions. First, ask yourself, what am I feeling? Are you bored, angry, sad, or frustrated? Whatever you may be feeling, record these emotions. Next, ask yourself, why do I feel this way? You may need to go through several cycles of answering these questions over days or even weeks in order to get a clear picture of what your true feelings are and why you feel this way. Take your time. Your feelings are important, and they're valuable guides that will eventually lead you to the truth if you let them. Your feelings and emotions are signposts. Some of the things your emotions can point to are the sources that you're using as validators of your identity. If there's some commitment which you've temporarily removed from your life that you feel compelled to add back in or replace with some similar pursuit or relationship, it's highly likely that you have just discovered something or someone from which you are receiving unhealthy validation. I'm not referring to something or someone that you simply miss, like how you might miss surfing at the beach back home when you're on a long trip to Montana. I'm talking about a feeling that your life is incomplete without that activity, that you are somehow without a purpose or less valuable as a human being unless you're doing that thing. As you sit with these emotions and journal about them, while also answering the suggested questions above, instead of trying to immediately satisfy the felt need, the truth behind why you feel such a desire to jump back into the commitment will surface. Through this process, you will likely discover that your motivations for doing something or spending time with someone are mixed. There are good reasons for many of the activities and commitments we make. If there weren't, we likely wouldn't have gotten involved with them in the first place. Taking the time to step back and sort through the emotions we have surrounding these decisions will help you sort through the good, the bad, and the ugly. At the end of the process, you'll have a better understanding of all of your motivations for making the decisions you've made in the past. Armed with this knowledge, you'll be empowered to make better, more informed decisions about what you want to keep in your life and what you need to let go of in order to find your calling and experience greater fulfillment in life. I've already mentioned that one of the things I discovered about myself when I went through this process was that the intense desire I felt to pursue certain goals was ultimately a desperate attempt to confirm my value and worth in the universe. I felt that if I wasn't doing something to build God's kingdom in others, that I was failing to fulfill my purpose and was therefore failing to please God. I felt as if I was becoming a disappointment to Him. This was a lie, which I desperately needed to be set free from. As I journaled and waited and meditated on the good news of God's love, I began to be healed from misconceptions like this. It's revelations like this that you'll be discovering as you wait, meditate on the gospel, and journal in the disconnection zone. In the coming episodes, we'll discuss some other things that you'll want to slowly begin incorporating into your life during this phase. But one thing we want to avoid is simply exchanging the old commitments and activities for new ones. You need empty space and time in your life to reach the goal we're aiming for. As you move into this time of disconnection and begin to meditate on the truth of the gospel daily, it's important that you let the process work. Time itself is a crucial component of the process. You need to marinate in this state for quite some time before you can truly detoxify from years and years of functioning with an incorrect understanding of your identity. Don't think you're done in a month and try to move on. I suggest taking at least 6 months to hang out here. You'll be surprised to find that just when you think you're finished, another layer of self-doubt and insecurity will pop up because of a situation you find yourself in. Then you'll have an opportunity to get an even deeper level of healing as you meditate on the gospel and let God's love heal the freshly exposed wounds of the past. That only happens if you give the process time to work without being so distracted by commitments to do stuff in order to earn your value. I can't stress this enough. Jumping back up on the horse too quickly can short-circuit the process and leave the work of clarifying and solidifying your true identity half finished. I took about 2 years to go through this process myself, and I was amazed that just when I thought I had settled my identity issues, something else would crop up and reveal that I still needed to internalize the truth of the gospel at a deeper level. Some place in the basement of my soul still needed more healing. I'm glad I didn't stop too soon. So, how do you tell when your time in the disconnection zone is over? Truthfully, the process of transformation that begins and is established during this time is never really completely over. If you so choose, you can continue to deepen your understanding of your identity for the rest of your life as you progressively apply these principles. However, for our purposes, deciding when to move on to the next step is something you have to determine between you and God. If you sense you need longer than 6 months, take it. I started out with the idea that I would take a year and ended up taking almost 2. Don't be afraid of making the wrong decision about how long to spend in the disconnection zone. Making the wrong decision is not fatal. If you've taken the recommended 6 months and feel that you've worked through your major identity issues, then try the next step. If after you've started the next step, you hit a roadblock or something comes up that lets you know you need more time dwelling in the disconnection zone before you move on, then do that. The great thing about this decision is that the next step is not jumping back into the old routine, so it's easy to go back and forth between this step and the next one if you feel the need. During this disconnecting to re-engage process, you'll experience the healing power of the gospel and make progress in getting free from the performance trap. That feels great. It should be a time of deepening your relationship with God and a time of increasing peace in your soul as you truly internalize the truth that your value and worth are independent of your performance. But there's another important piece of the foundation that must be laid during this phase of your journey. In order to properly discern what God's calling for your life is, you need to rewire your thinking and unlearn what you thought you knew about calling and purpose. In its place, you need to establish a correct understanding of God's biblical plan for calling and purpose. That's the topic of the next episode, and is something very different from what you probably expect. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Find Your Calling channel. And remember, the world needs you to live out your calling. There's no one else who can do it but you. If you want to study this topic in more depth, please consider picking up the 2 books I've written on this subject, Find Your Calling Without Losing Your Mind, and Overcome the Obstacles and Succeed at Your Calling. Purchase links for both books can be found in the show notes below. And as always, we need your help to spread the word. You can do this by subscribing to the channel and telling someone else about it. Thanks for listening, and may God bless your day.